Hey everybody, Max Scoville here for Destructoid. Welcome to a very special Tuesday Newsday. Why is it very special? Because it's really nice out today, and I decided that we should go outside today because it's nice. If you're unfamiliar, San Francisco is frequently very cold in the summertime. I actually had to turn my heat on last night and put on a sweater in June. Anyway, there's lots of great news. This is the week before E3, and there's so much stuff the video game industry is like a big, just oozing boil that's just ready to burst, or maybe like a balloon is better. I don't know. Anyway, it's something that's about to pop, and there's a bunch of stuff trickling out. Let's take a look at some of it right now. So last week we told you guys about how a bunch of materials for Battlefield Hardline had been leaked, and that they pointing to it being a cops and robbers game, kind of a Payday the Heist looking thing. Shortly after that, an internal video that had been prepared for EA that showed off basically every portion of the game, kind of explaining how it works and what the different parts of it are, showed up, and it's really cool. And apparently that's actually really old footage from like 6 months ago or so. What do we know about the game so far? Well, apparently it's set in Omaha based on these marketing materials. I think it might have actually been originally called Omaha. Maybe that was the working title. In any case, I think it's probably set in Omaha, which is, I guess, interesting. I don't think they've really done any games there before. I've been to Omaha once. It actually smelled like hot dogs because of all the meat packing plants they have there. Anyway, it's a big, huge open world game. There's going to be, lots of, like you'd expect, giant, massive, huge battlefield levels, and of course vehicles to ride around them. And there's a new mode called, I guess, Blood Money, which is kind of just you kind of shooting people and taking the money. And then there's going to be, a high-speed chase one. I forget what that's called, but it looks like they're kind of taking the GTA approach here. And overall, it looks pretty great, especially grappling hooks. You can actually just use grappling hooks on like any goddamn building, which is great. And there's zip lines too, which are always fun. But yeah, it's weird. This is like the first Battlefield game that I find myself genuinely enthusiastic about. Oh, and what's more, I think Visceral's doing the single-player campaign, which is going to be a cop story. And I love cop stories. I'm so stoked on cop movies. I think they're really fun. I don't know why that is. I don't particularly like cops. Jesus Christ. Let me throw a firework out the window. Anyway, shortly after this video showed up, I guess kind of early this week, beta footage actually showed up. Somebody managed to actually get into the beta of the game and drive around and blow some stuff up and just kind of screw around. So EA is definitely not keeping a very tight lid on this one. And I actually heard a rumor somewhere that the beta might actually start this summer. Yeah, looks good though. I'm stoked. Battlefield Hardline. Let's stay tuned for the big grand reveal at E3, right? We've already seen the game, that's the joke. Now, leaks aside, there is actually a big official reveal or two that happened this week. Mortal Kombat X. I know, Mortal Kombat 10, technically Roman numerals and all that, but I guess Ed Boon actually stated officially that it is going to be pronounced Mortal Kombat X, like the letter. This trailer showed up, shows Sub-Zero and Scorpion beating the shit out of each other in typical Mortal Kombat fashion. There's bones breaking. Some people complain that this video doesn't really actually show anything about the game. It certainly doesn't really look like proper-ass gameplay. Kind of a mix of CG and maybe some in-engine stuff, but there's really nothing advertising that. One thing you can take away from this is that there will be environmental attacks. There's a part where I think Sub-Zero just grabs a tree branch and beats Scorpion across the head with it. That's awesome. I love that in Injustice. I really hope there's a bunch of that in the Mortal Kombat X. Crytek had a bunch of big announcements, well, two big announcements, starting with Homefront The Revolution, which is of course the sequel to Homefront. There's a game that they, that was a THQ game, you might remember that a while ago. When THQ went under, they sold off all their IPs. Crytek picked up the rest of it, they picked up Homefront, so they are going to be releasing Homefront The Revolution. We kind of knew this was coming a long way off. The setting is a city in America that is occupied by the North Koreans, and it's got this full kind of dictatorship going, and there's drones going around and security guards with the scary voices, kind of very Half-Life 2 vibe there. But probably with less, interdimensional alien type things. Mechanically, though, there is something that piqued my interest in some of the materials they sent out. It said that this is going to be kind of an asymmetrical approach to the whole open world kind of gameplay, as opposed to just being like, running around, causing mayhem, and really being kind of aggressive. You have to be more tactical in your approach and really make more strategic hits on the bad guys, the government. And since you're part of this kind of underground resistance, you're not really, you're not really going to be like the superpower. It's not going to be really a balanced fight. So, I mean, I guess kind of like any other open world game, but I don't know. It sounds kind of cool. And you got to, I guess, salvage, materials to get your weapons together, and your cell phone plays a part in the game. What do you know? It's a game in 2014. The other game announced by Crytek this week is The Hunt. or Hunt, Horrors of the Gilded Age, which is a 4-player cooperative monster hunter game, which is set in the 19th century. So it's kind of looks like a sort of steampunk version of Evolve. I guess you're a bunch of these different characters, and you got kind of the cowboy and the sort of you know, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen vibe there. And this is being developed by Crytek USA, which is, of course, made up of former Vigil Studios employees. Those are the guys who did Darksiders. So it has some promise there. And we're, again, going to see more of that at E3. They have this trailer that doesn't really show off a whole lot, aside from the fact that there's cowboy hats and zombies in the game. So if you are a fan of one or both of those things, there's something for you to look at. What appears to be some Unreal 4 test footage showed up from the guys at Ninja Theory. Those are the guys who did Enslaved and the new Devil May Cry. I guess this is something called the Beggar's Opera. I remember seeing little bits and pieces of this in somebody's portfolio or some sizzle reel they put out over a year ago. It's got their general kind of very colorful aesthetic, lots of greens mixed in. It's a pretty looking game as far as it being a game. It could just be a tech demo, kind of hard to tell at this point, but it would not surprise me one bit if we saw this revealed next week. It's got this kind of, it's kind of almost looks like a AAA version of Transistor, just that same kind of color scheme, and I don't know, there's a lady with blue hair, and there's some alleyways, and I don't know. You're watching the video right now, so you can kind of make your own assessments of it. Now, onto the subject of games that someone has actually played for themselves. Brett Mekadonsky went and checked out Sonic Boom, which is, of course, the new Sonic game that puts more of an emphasis on beat-em-up action and gave bandages to all of the characters. And also there's that new character who's a jungle badger. But yeah, Brett played the game. He said it's exactly what he expected. He went in with kind of guarded expectations, this being a Sonic the Hedgehog game. But it was also, you know, it was not bad, not great. He complained about the camera angle, said that some of the running sections were just sort of a blur, and it seemed more like they depended on, you know, having to repeat them to really know the rhythm or the flow of the game, as opposed to actual, you know, skill and jumping at the right time. He was more impressed by some of the combat and exploration sequences, but overall, it sounds like he's just you know, very tentative about this. You know, it's Sonic hasn't had the best track record lately, you know, so I guess kind of don't hold your breath, but you know, stay tuned for more details on that. It's still a ways off. Yesterday, Apple had their WWDC Worldwide Developer Conference, or whatever the hell it's called, and really the only gaming news that came out of that is they're doing this thing called Metal, which is, I guess, a new thing in the iOS that makes it so that the chip works better with the games. And they've been working with Unity and Crytek and Epic to try and make, you know, games run better on iOS devices. So there's that. There's a game coming out. Maybe, sort of. It's called Zen Garden. I don't really know if that counts as a game, but Epic put that out, and apparently it's basically just sort of a little tech demo that shows off how many leaves you can have in a game about koi ponds on your iPhone. So that'll be available later this year when the new iOS launches. Speaking of leaves and phones and shit like that, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare is coming to PS4 and PS3 soon. So if you were sad that that was only out for the Xbox consoles, now you can play it on other systems as well. On the non-gaming front, some news has surfaced about Star Wars Episode 7, which I care about, so I will relate it to you as we speak. 2 female cast members have been announced for Star Wars Episode 7, which is, I guess, good because a lot of people were complaining about it being a total sausage fest, which Star Wars historically has kind of been. Lupita Nyong'o from 12 Years a Slave and Gwendolyn Christie, better known as Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, will be joining the cast, and that's good news. I'm so down to see Brienne as a Jedi or something. That sounds like a rad time. Maybe we'll get what's his face, Podrick in there too, to fuck things up, not know how to cook a rabbit or a womp rat, I guess. Other Star Wars news: TMZ somehow got a hold of a bunch of set photos and photos of extras and basically a bunch of, I mean, really our first look at Episode 7, and then they proceeded to put their big butt-fucking dumbass logo watermarked all over every image, so if you were trying to get a nice, actual, pretty look at how this, you know, film is going to look, then tough shit, because they really just want to protect their rights as paparazzis. But as for actual details in there, there's this thing that looks sort of like a big pig, kind of like a pig crossed with a dewback, which I think is cool. And then there's this large gate thing, which if you go back and look at the old Ralph McQuarrie concept art, seems to be the gate to Jabba's palace. So there you have it. This episode of Tuesday Newsday has been brought to you by Delicious Lemonade. and summertime. Yeah, that's all I'm going to talk to you guys about today. If you have any suggestions for the kind of stuff you'd like to see us doing at E3, leave it in the comments. If you'd like to talk about Lemonade or the summer, we should meet up on the porch later and sit in the hammock together. I'm Max Scoville. Take it easy. A delicious lemonade and summertime. That's a butterfly.